This is the Balanced Advisor Podcast with Dr. Travis Perry, helping financial advisors like you achieve balance in their lives.
Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Advisor Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Travis Perry. Today we have Sten Morgan joining us. Sten founded legacy investment planning in 2012 as a result of his desire to deliver independent, straightforward advice to his clients. As an author of 2 books and an experienced public speaker, Sten aims to improve lives through creative financial strategies. Welcome to the show, man.
And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, on the pre-show, I gave Sten a hard time because whenever I see his name in Danish, it's Steen, which means rock or stone. So like he has a really strong name and he's okay with me calling him Sten because that's probably what you've heard your entire life, right? But you've heard Stan, Steen. People mess that up, but for this show,
it helps you be a resilient kid because you get made fun of all the time, and then you grow up a good fighter, I guess. Right?
There you go, good fighter. No, I actually really like it because it's a really strong name. Well, tell us about your resilience as you started in this industry, because I know you got bumped around a little bit there too.
Yeah, I didn't have any to start. So for me, I grew up single mom, 3 sisters. Risk was the last thing on my mind. The whole goal was comfort. We moved a lot. And so I was like, I just need to land somewhere where I can just make enough money to pay the bills and not stress. And so I was not looking to become an advisor, not looking to become a business owner until Northwestern Mutual said they'd pay me $400 a month to show up to a meeting once a week. And I was like, well, might as well go check it out. And that was my first taste of the business. Giving advice, money kind of was something I was interested in. Went through their system, got some good training. Decided I think, investments are sexier than insurance. And so I jumped over to Raymond James and cut my teeth on that, doing the whole A-share mutual fund, high volume kind of practice. Had another pivot point where I was like, I think there's a different way to do it. And at that point jumped out and started Legacy. And again, after I'd moved to Nashville, which again, our industry will tell you certain things. And moving to a cold market and starting a practice on your own is usually not one of them. But fortunately it worked out really well.
Now we're going to get into the why behind that, but I love your story. We both started at Northwestern, kind of a similar situation, and we have that in common. But we each struggled with balance, right? We each had this struggle with what the industry is telling us is this, nights and weekends, you got to come in with the coffee and out with the trash, like whatever you want to talk about for 5-10 years, and then you're going to make it and everything's going to be okay. I don't think that was your definition of balance, but we'd love to know, what is your definition of balance? How do you see it? And, how was that struggle with the industry?
Yeah, for me, I had a lot of authority figures come in and out of my life growing up a lot. And so for me, kind of galvanized me, my mom and my 3 sisters. This is kind of our core. And I saw, based on my background, money would solve all the problems I thought we had. And so I was very focused on that, going through college, finance, economics. What is this world of money? A book we recently released was the idea of wish I knew that sooner. I remember looking around saying, these people aren't working harder than us, but why do they seem like they're better off than us? And so I was just curious. And I also looked at my mom and sisters and said, if there's anything I can do to help them, I feel like there's a moral obligation to do it. So I was probably putting too much pressure on a teenager to figure all that stuff out. But through that, got exposed to the industry and the business. And at the same time, though, with the desire to create security for those closest to me, also said, I can't do what I saw men in my life do, which essentially was absent. And so as I wanted to have a family and build a family, I was like, I'm committed to somehow reaching a level of success to accomplish what I want to, but I'm going to do it within, 8 to 5, and I'm not going to work weekends. And the industry would tell you not to do that, at least for a period of time. You haven't earned it yet. Work crazy hours and someday it's going to work out. That's literally how I got into the business. It was just, so there's really no path. You're telling me just most people don't make it, but maybe some do. Good luck. And so I was just committed to figuring that out, competitive drive. And fortunately it worked out. Definitely had some curveballs along the way and learned a lot personally, but I held true to that because if I had those parameters or those boundaries for myself, it forced me to think creatively. And it forced me to do things that other people weren't doing.
Well, this resiliency, and obviously you've had support, you've had those men that maybe you didn't see in your life because they were absent, create a wrinkle in your brain that says, I'm not going to be that. Right. Mm-hmm. So I applaud you, man. Like what a cool story. And I'm going to read that book. What I wish I knew. Wish I knew that sooner. Right. Is that the title? I love that. I'm going to check that out. Other advisors, you got to check that out too. But, also I like the 8 to 5, not working weekends. Like I was just told, like, you got to work a couple nights. You have to work Saturdays to make it happen. Like this is the Northwestern Mutual philosophy. And I flatly just said, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I found that the industry pushed so hard. What I thought was the industry was really just a piece of it, right? In life insurance, this, Northwestern Mutual gladiator, right, of the industry. It was like, no, you've got to do this. Why? Because it's what we've always done. And I'm always the guy like, can it be done faster? Can it be done more productive? Yes. Can it not be done in a better way? Like, why do I have to do it this way? I was never I'm just going to follow along and just do what I'm told. Yep. Definitely kicking against the pricks a lot of the time on this one. But what's interesting is when I left Northwestern, because I wanted to be independent, I had a different problem. And that was, now I have nobody telling me what to do.
Yeah. The systems, the machine. I mean, there's definitely a
machine
benefit
is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just, because you started in the same environment that I did, I'm curious, like, did you have that aha moment when you left Northwestern, Raymond James, or Raymond James when you went off and started, your legacy investment planning? Did you feel that like opposite reaction of, whoa, I can do whatever? And, I'm curious how you handled that.
Yeah, I found it harder to hide. In busy work and playing office is a risk to every advisor. And when I left Raymond James, and because I was finding myself in the business and I didn't know, what is it like to be heavy insurance? And that doesn't mean that world's bad, but is it the right fit for you? Or is it all investments all the time? And while that was, nice and sexy in a way, I was like, is there a place where it's consultative? And so I think I found with Legacy this balance of like, we are a financial strategy firm and you can pay us for our time and advice and I don't have to sell you anything. And that when I got to that place, I was like, okay, this feels good. Could I make more money selling products at a high volume? Maybe, but this is what got me excited to go to work. And so within those, when it was just me, started Legacy by myself, there was a lack of accountability. Isolation is just rough on all of us and our business is just brutal with that. So as I started building out my team, the biggest thing for me is I had to find community. Like I had to get accountability to stay on track with what I said about balance and my goals. And so the lack of community was, I think, the biggest risk that a lot of advisors face. And I'll preface that by saying community doesn't mean you're in an office space with other advisors. And just because you're around people doesn't mean you have community. And the risk of being in a big firm sometimes is you start just watching people and you start copying them. And you might look up one day and say, I'm copying something I never wanted to be. And so I had to be really aware of that.
Really great points. I like that you talk about this balanced approach because that's exactly where I went to. I started my own firm, Perry Wealth Management, and I was charging fees for planning, and I had a team that was helping me. What I still struggled with though is the accountability and the community. Because now I had no one to be like, oh, what's my benchmark? I had some friends that left Northwestern that I was, keeping tabs on. That's not the same thing. They were even in the same office building I went to, and they're fantastic guys. But what I struggled with is this accountability until I found some coaching. I'm like, okay, I'll find some accountability with coaching. That really helped me up my game. And then building out my own team, same thing. I was like, we need to keep each other accountable. What role did your wife play in you starting your business, keeping your balance at the same time?
She was a nurse when I did, so she helped pay the bills, which was huge. But still, it was just lean and mean when I broke off, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I vividly remember sitting in an office space that was sublet to me and being like, I don't know what I'm going to do today. And I happened to get a call from an old client who referred somebody to me in West Virginia. And I had nobody else to call. So the next day I got in my car and drove 8 hours for a 2-hour meeting and turned around and drove 8 hours back to pick up my first client. Obviously in hindsight, there was a better use of that time, but then I was like, I just need activity. I need a win. So it was kind of, think of chief encourager and, hey, you got it. I believe in you. I probably didn't let her know all the risks and the things that were happening. but I think she trusted me, which was a big help.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've driven a few hours for clients, but not 8 hours. That's, well, you know, I
don't know if that's an award you want to have, but
no, you know, I take it back. I drove to California, I drove to Idaho because I had family there. I was going there. Anyway.
Oh, there you go.
But the fact that you got the phone call and you went out for the meeting, that's how we started, right? It's like, that's the resiliency. That's the grit that gets us going. Obviously that doesn't last forever, right? Yep. There's balance issues here.
That's right.
If we keep focusing. So cool that your wife was supportive of you doing all this. What, as you're looking at the industry, we've talked a little bit about the pressure it's had on you. Mm-hmm. What would you say as you've seen other advisors struggle through this balance act? What have they struggled with that you've seen, and you know what you want to share?
And this is now we've coached hundreds of advisors directly and seen the insides of their practice, spoken at a lot of firms, conferences, and we've built courses for advice. Like, so through all of that, it's like what I thought it was. And then, okay, now it's helped kind of refine. It's the stuff that me and you probably know in our core is going on, but then you're like, okay, I have data to support it. And we believe without a doubt, it's a lack of a path. Meaning I'm going to show up and work and call people, and then someday I'm just going to end up where I want to be. And so we spent a lot of time coming up with, you know, what we call the elite advisor path. And we've broken the industry path of advisors down to 5 stages. There's a rookie stage, a stable stage, a maturing, a comfortable, and a thriving. And so for us, I know, like any race, it's like, I want to know how long the race is. I want to know where the finish line is. Like, where am I even going? Because then we can say, is the decisions I'm making every day actually getting me closer to that as a business owner, as an advisor, as a husband, as a parent? Like, and so for us, if we can help advisors, and I look back when I walked in with my baggy suit at Northwestern, if they would have said, here's where you are, and in your first stage, and if they could have told me, hey, you are a rookie, and here's what it looks like to be a rookie, and here's how you get out of rookie stage, I would have known, okay, for the next 12 months, here's what I got to do. And then they would have been like, hey, Sten, you're out of rookie, but you're in stable phase, which means you're paying your bills. Good job. But now you have a different set of struggles you have to work through. Okay, here's how we get you from stable to maturing. Oh, great. But without that, I mean, it's just we're kind of hanging advisors out there to dry a little bit by saying, good luck. And we'll give you some random coaching. And unfortunately, a lot of firms, the coaching you're getting is from advisors that didn't make it. They're managers, and I love them. I got good buddies, but like if they were really good at what they were telling you to do, like they'd be making $1 million a year with their own practice. And so I think there's just some broken things in the industry that are here to stay, and they're probably going to improve. But like, you know, guys like me and you, it's like, hey, we've been there, done it. Now let me help you get there faster than we did.
Yeah. And like you said, like they're broken things in the industry, which is good job security for us, right? Yeah, it's always going to be there. Yeah. At the same time, as you're coaching other advisors, you're changing the industry. Like we're part of this change. And that's why I love this Balanced Advisor movement. It's not just a coaching program. It's not just, you know, a podcast. It really is a movement to try and help combine our efforts together as we're trying to make this change. Because obviously we've literally both been there and done that. That's right. And we're sending you this t-shirt. Like you should be getting this in the mail, but you know, nice. The phrase.
Yeah. The good news is I think the message is you can have balance, but your quality and success and valuable advice doesn't have to be diminished. Like it is a both and. You just have to kind of internalize it and realize the path is probably going to be a little harder. And are you willing to lean into it?
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think when people when we're saying balance, you're thinking, oh, that means I have to give up something for something else. No, that's a compromise. That's political. That's over the aisle. That's not what we're talking about. You can have everything. You just don't have to do it all at the same time. Like you, we've got 4 types of advisors, but we call them the do-it-all advisors, the productive workaholic advisors, the personal developers, and the balanced advisors. And I think honestly, it's a progression. It's an evolution. So when I interview people, I'm like, oh yeah, they're totally a do-it-all or they've made it to the personal development stage, but they really lack this last piece, which is the accountability with spouse or whatever. And we've nailed these personalities. We have a quiz on our website called the Balanced Advisor Quiz at maketimeinstitute.com. You can go take that. to the point where now we're even making videos about these characters, and we're starting to get those out there now. Super funny to kind of poke fun at where we're at, because
we've been in every stage.
We've been there. We've been in every stage, and I know where I was. So I like the rookie, stable, comfortable, thriving. Did I miss one? Are those all 4?
Yeah, it's rookie, stable, maturing, comfortable, and thriving.
Yeah, cool.
For me, I just needed to know kind of what's next. Like,
what's next?
Is I think our business, another kind of lie is a strong word, but is that income is the measure of success.
Sure, for sure.
And I've met plenty of advisors making great money that I would say, hey, you're not thriving. And so figuring out like, hey, income is a byproduct of great service, results, efficiencies, like that will come. But if it's your leading motivator, which when I was at firms where I was winning trips and getting different tiers, like that was a big motivator, And so until I broke it on my own, I was like, wait, there's no conferences, there's no stuff. Like it's just me helping people and building a better business. I kind of was able to shake those chains a little bit, but and that's our thing. So if we can give people some clarity around where they are, and I love the things you mentioned, kind of those stages, because to me, awareness is key. Like if you don't know where you are and where you're going, you're just guessing.
Yeah, precisely. I think you're 100% right. Like you need a path. You need to know where you're going, how you're getting there, what's involved, or else what compass, what direction. Like we're advisors. We're here to help people with their financial plan. Yet, do you not have a plan for the business? Like, do you not have a plan for your marketing? Do you not have a plan for the rest of your life? If we're truly planners, and maybe some advisors aren't planners, but I kind of disagree. I think to be an advisor, you do need to have a plan, period. Yeah. Even if you don't charge for it, even if you're not comprehensive, you have a plan.
That's right.
And so that makes perfect sense to me. I love what you're doing there. What else do you think besides like not having path? What other, I don't know, pitfalls, things that they struggle with that you've seen as you've worked with hundreds of advisors?
So the two things I would say it really boils down to, or we've seen as advisors internalize these 2 ideas. There's kind of this hockey stick in their practice. And there's 2 books. There's a book attached to each one. So if you're listening and you haven't read these, do it tomorrow. The first one is essentialism. And the idea behind essentialism is we all have a certain amount of time in a day or energy. And most people without a plan, we kind of just spread it out. And we get maybe average results at the things we try to do. Essentialism is how do we drop good things and only do great things? Like that needs to become our filter. Like I don't do good stuff. Like I do great stuff, because there's always good things we can be doing with our time. And the next one is who, not how, because you can't do it on your own and you're not the best at everything. And that's why you need support, whether it's community, whether it's building your team. And a resource we're putting together now is for any advisor, what's a healthy growth of a team? Who do you hire next? Like, and I believe with the 5 right people on the bus, you could have a $3 million revenue practice. And that's all it takes. If it's the right hires in the right order, you can do that. And so those 2 ideas of who, not how, you have a team and they're the right people, and then essentialism, you're spending your time in the right place. Those are the 2 biggest issues I see advisors having. And the good news is there's some cool content around it. And when I internalized those ideas, it was a game changer for us.
Yeah, I think essentialism I'd agree a lot with, as we talk about where's your work sweet spot, like where are you spending your time at work, which helps you be more productive. You can scale your business, which gives you more balance if and only if you're not a productive workaholic who has boundaries, right?
Right.
That's really what a productive workaholic is. Like they're productive because they're trying not to be a do-it-all, but then they struggle. So I 100% agree with the essentialism idea. And then the who, not how I think every single podcast episode I've ever done, we talk about delegation. And maybe I'm wrong, listeners. Maybe there's 1 or 2 that I forgot. So sorry. But it always comes up from my podcast guests that they're talking about, like building a team so you can delegate, so you can get rid of those things that aren't as productive and those things that you can't scale or, bring on the right culture of team. So beautiful. Thanks for the book recommendations on this.
Oh, you bet.
So, you train advisors. What exactly do? Do you help them on this elite advisor path, depending on where they're at in their business? But is this a coaching? Is this a mastermind? Is it a little bit of both? What do you got?
A little bit of both. So the kind of our flagship thing we did a few years ago was this how to charge for your advice. because when we started charging for advice, we did more asset management than we ever did. And we just were getting access to new clients that didn't want to buy stuff. But the real estate developers, like, people that were like, I make more money in my business or other places in the market. So if you keep trying to sell me stuff, we don't want to talk. And that exploded for us. We went from zero financial planning fees to, 600,000 in 5 years. But there's a process required and there's expertise required. And so we put a course together to get that out. And that's, I think 100, 200 advisors have taken that by now. The core of who we are, though, is community. And so we have the Elite Advisor Network, which is advisors that are like, let's get around each other and build the new practice. Like, what does it look like to grow and get off the island of isolation? Because you can get on, community call with us, and I can share one idea with you that makes you $100,000. Like, the power of an idea, if implemented well, is worth its weight in gold. And then the other component is what we call Level Up, which is a community for support staff. Because for me, if my support staff can go somewhere and level up themselves and become twice as good at their job, and I don't have to do it, because to be honest, I'm not the best one at doing that. And I couldn't find anywhere in the industry where I could send my team members to go get challenged like I do. And so with EAN and Level Up, that's where we can say, hey, we're going to come give you guys practical ideas to make your practice better. And again, the goal is, how can I make more money and work less and add just as much value? And that's kind of our focus.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, you're focused in the practice management side, which is where I live and breathe too, just on the micro level, right? With the advisor. So this is really hand in hand. Can't imagine not helping your support staff. Like, literally before our Zoom call today and this podcast interview, I told my team, like, we need to do some training. Like, this is when we're going to do it. And we collaborated on the time and just put it on the schedule. Because if you don't invest in your people, like, and if you're not investing in the right people, how can you grow? How can you scale? It's just it's almost impossible.
Yeah, I was on a podcast a month or so ago, and I said something a little shocking. I told advisors, I was like, stop funding your 401k, your SEP, or your Roth, and start investing in your business and your people. If we're looking at return on investment, and again, if you can do both, great. But there's some advisors that called and they're like, Sten, I'm going to put 20 grand into my SEP. I was like, okay, tell me about your team. Well, I have a part-time person that kind of helps me with stuff. I'm like, okay, that needs to be a full-time person tomorrow. Because the industry, we tell our clients to just fund their mutual fund IRAs, and that's how we get paid. And it's like, you are a great asset. Like, invest in that. There's plenty of time to fund that stuff. But if I can spend $1 and make 100, or I can spend $1 and make 5, like, I'll bet on my team and myself
every day.
Yeah.
I mean, the latest thing is cryptocurrencies, which, hey, one day it's up 1,000, the next day it's down to 30,000. Like, it's all over the place. Yeah. I know the investment, 101. I was halfway to the CFP before I jumped into psychology and doing my PhD and everything. I get it. I understand that, like, that's a risky investment, but there's a lot of return right now. I literally take a snapshot of, like, what cryptocurrency has done in a year. And I take a snapshot of what my business did in a year. Right? Yeah. And, like, there is no comparison. My business hands down dwarfs any retirement, any investment out there in the market. And obviously, as I even taught a class to teenagers about these concepts, I showed them the stock market. These are businesses basically saying, we need more money. We need to grow. Mm-hmm. So quit trying to figure out the market and start learning about business. Mm-hmm. And I actually did a presentation one time, and this kid came up to me. I say kid, he was a newly married guy. He's like, I just started, I've got this job, I want to invest. I'm like, listen, there's really two ways. You invest in your business, or start a business and learn about it, or be an employee and invest in other people's businesses, because that's essentially what you're doing. Yep. So I get it. And I know I'm talking to advisors here, and you're like, oh, Travis, you know what you're talking about? Well, I kind of do, because I think some advisors, they don't look at their business as they see it as a practice. Mm-hmm. And if they're in it that way, they'll probably always be a solo advisor, not scaling, not wanting to grow, plateauing, stuck where they are. And if they're okay with it, listeners, go, that's awesome. Stay where you're at. That's wonderful. But if you want to scale, that's not how you're going to do it.
The thing is, those same advisors that say they're good, they're not. 5 years, 10 years from now, they're going to look back and say, if I only would have known that, I wish I would have done that. Because I've talked to them at all stages, and nobody has a practice with one support staff down the road that says, man, I'm really glad I just kind of fumbled through this on my own.
For sure.
And if they're being honest, they're going to, say, I should have done it differently. And I think for me, the fear was the limiting beliefs, the head trash. If I was like, nobody in my family's ever made good money, nobody's ever run a successful business, this isn't for me. And so what I had to do is I had to get around other advisors to say, wait, they're doing it? Like, wait, they've overcome those struggles and they're still successful. They've had harder backgrounds than me and they're still. So now I was just aware it was possible. Then the hardest part is saying, okay, do I believe I can do it? And you just have to get aggressive about getting around people that are doing it. And that's the community. That's a Elite Advisor Network for us. And it'll be uncomfortable. Everything in your body is going to reject like all these reasons why they're doing it and you're not. But if you can just sit in that tension, that discomfort, I mean, you'll never regret it. It's just, can we get you into the environment?
Yeah. My last chapter in the book talks about limiting beliefs and blocks. I'm like, why would you do that? And when you're talking about balance, no, that's the issue, because you want it, you want to achieve it, you want to scale your business. But if you are just lying to yourself subconsciously, because those limiting beliefs are stuck in your head, then you're stuck.
Yeah, I hear all the time that Sten, I'm good, I don't want to grow, because the thought is that means I have to give up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. What am I giving up? Precisely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, but what if I told you could do both? But it's going to be hard. And then it's up to them to say, well, I'm just not willing to do the work. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to convince you of it, but let's get to that point before we give up. Yeah.
Love it. Hey man, we're on the same team, going the same direction here. I hope advisors, you've enjoyed this. You're trying to scale your business. You need some help on the Elite Advisor Network or leveling up your support staff. Stan, how do they reach out to you? What's the best way? Obviously we have eadvisornetwork.com. We'll put that on the show notes, but is there someplace else you'd like them to go to connect with you?
That's the best place to go. Sign up for our newsletter. We're going to be kicking out some cool content about that. How do you grow a team? And part of that's going to be, what are the job descriptions and how do they change as you add people? Because for the lead advisor, we should give away probably 30 or 40% of our work every time we hire somebody. And then are we doing the right stuff with that free time, or do we just fill it? And so we'll be coming out with some cool videos and stuff around that here soon.
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining us, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. Definitely check it out. Get on that newsletter and pick up his book. Stan, you've been great. If you don't have Achieving Balance, go to achievingbalancebook.com. Pick that up. There's so many concepts here. We've talked about it exactly, like you reinforce what we've been discussing. I'm so glad there's other balance advisors out there helping the industry. You really are needed. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, bud. Thanks for having me.